Now we want to talk about a new gun law in our state that goes into effect next week. If you want to buy a gun here, there's going to be a mandatory 7-day waiting period.
New Mexican Republicans tried to file a referendum to let voters decide if they really wanted that week-long waiting period.
But our Secretary of State said no, and Monica Logroño explains why.
Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse-Oliver rejected a referendum that would make the decision to create a 7-day firearm waiting period up to the voters. Senator Craig Brandt pushed for this referendum. He says it's a direct hit on New Mexicans' constitutional rights.
We hear the Democrats all the time talking about democratic process and democracy and how Trump's ruining democracy, or how the Republicans are ruining democracy. Well, and the fact of the matter is, in this situation, our Secretary of State is the one that's keeping people from having a right to vote on this bill.
Secretary of State Communications Director Alex Curtis says it was rejected because under New Mexico law, there is specific criteria for the referendum review process.
There's a specific exception within the law that says any law that is particularly about something to do with public peace, health, or safety is exempt from that process. So there are other laws that could go through this process, but a firearm-related law is pretty clearly about public safety and health, so is exempted from that process.
But Brandt disagrees and argues a waiting period isn't about public safety.
She's just automatically rejected it, saying it's about, well, no, it's public safety, peace, welfare. Well, nothing about this was public safety. There's not a single shred of evidence. There's not a single study that shows that a 7-day waiting period will make the community any safer, or has in any other state that it's already being done. You know, she just kind of uses that as her catch-all.
Brandt says the next step would be to file a federal lawsuit, but right now there are no plans to take that type of action. Another option would be reviewing New Mexico's constitution.
If there is a change in the law that broadens the scope of what laws are allowed to be subject to the referendum petition process, you know, that would be the will of the legislature and the people, presumably, and so we would just, you know, follow that guidance and those steps if those were in place. But the Secretary of State at this point is just following the law as it's written.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed House Bill 129 back in March. It goes into effect May 15th. In Santa Fe, Monica Logroño, KOB4.
The other gun measure Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed back in March bans guns from polling locations. Firearms would not be allowed within 100 feet of polling places or ballot drop boxes. There are exceptions, however, for law enforcement and anybody with a concealed carry permit.